welcome back to the Plunder Den. In this week's episode, we're going to be doing an unboxing and painting tutorial of Firelock Games' Blood and Steel. So the day has finally arrived and Blood and Steel has made its way to the Plunder Den, and I'm super excited to share it with you guys. So let's start off by telling you what Blood and Steel is all about. So Blood and Steel is a game based in the Victorian era. So Blood and Plunder, which you might be familiar with, takes place in the Golden Age of Piracy, which would be before the Victorian era. And Blood and Valor, which is another game that Firelock Games makes, takes place in World War I, which would take place after the Victorian era. So this is kind of nestled right between the two. And now Firelock Games is covering quite a large area of this time period. And there, if you've played Blood and Plunder and Blood and Valor, this will definitely be an easy game to pick up. So certainly some rules are shared between these three games that are similarities. The dice are the same. You're using a 10-sided dice. You can use those marker tokens from Blood and Plunder, which will help you in this game. So there's not a lot of other game pieces you need to get. There's some mission cards or objective cards that they're in the manual, and I plan on making my own just from the manual itself. But it's not you don't necessarily have to get a deck of cards or anything like that. But there is definitely some different rules for Blood and Steel, which makes the game different from the other two, and it's played out a little bit different. It is a skirmish style game. But there's objective cards I was mentioning that are hidden to the other opponent, so you guys are going for extra points based on these objectives you have, which adds another element to the game, which is very exciting. Of course, the initiative to see who goes first is done differently in Blood and Steel, opposed to the other two games. It's more of a dice bidding system based on how many units you have. You roll dice, and that shows you how many points you have based on how many units you have. Anyways, we'll you take a little deeper dive into that when we get down to the table. But I just kind of wanted to mention that there's a different initiative rules for it. So there's some similarities, and there's some things that are completely different. So which makes it very exciting, and it just continues on with all the other games that I'm already playing from Firelock Games. So this is very, very exciting. All right, so let's take a look and see what I got in the box, right? So in the box, I got some miniatures. So I picked the Anglo-Zulu War conflict. That's in the Blood and Steel book. There's several conflicts that you can play. So that's another thing that's quite different than the other games. Is it covers different conflicts, different eras within the Victorian era. So which is really, really cool. But I picked the Zulu-Anglo War. So these are some of the minis that I got in there. You get 38 minis in here. So the miniatures are from Perry Miniatures. And they're a partner with Firelock Games for this game. So there's no specific Blood and Steel minis because there's several conflicts. And there's a lot of miniatures already out there for these games. You can pick up these already. But the cool thing is that Firelock Games is offering these miniatures with the rule set. So you can just get it as a bundle. And you can just start playing right away. So these are British infantry dedicated for the Zulu War. So that's what I got in this one box. And we're going to take a deeper dive when we get down to the table. We're going to take a look inside those boxes and look at these minis a little bit closer. So these are the Zulu warriors that I also got. So you get both opponents in there. And in these boxes, they have larger bases, mainly because these miniatures were made prior to this game and they are meant for other different war games. And Blood and Steel is a skirmish style, so it's not unit based where you're moving the entire unit. You're moving individual miniatures, more like Blood and Plunder and Blood and Valor. So they gave us these MDF little bases so you can base your miniatures, which are fantastic. So you can get them all into individual units. And then, of course, the manual itself. This is it right here. And we're going to take a deeper dive down when we get down to the table on this one as well. And I just wanted to briefly show you, I'm not going to show you, I did a few different minis, but this is what we're doing in the painting tutorial. This is one of the Zulu warriors. I don't know if you can see that on the camera there, but that's one of them. And then there's some British infantry. that we're going to be painting in this episode. All right, so those are the things that we're going to be covering. So before we get down to the table, I just want to do a very quick update of the Summer Plunder global campaign. So we're moving into, let me just get down to my calendar here. We're moving into week 6. So week 5 was higher locals, and now we're moving into, it's called the fourth portion of fortune. So you get an extra fortune point before you start the match. The really cool thing is you can play pretty well any scenario you want. You're not governed by a particular mission, but you get an extra fortune point, which should make it extra exciting. One extra fortune point makes a huge difference in Blood and Plunder, and can really change the game. And I can't forget Oak and Iron too, Oak and Iron as well. So just make sure if you're playing that, all those English batches, of course, make sure you use that extra fortune point. So this should be an easier one this week to get extra points. And I imagine there'll be a lot of games logged in this week for sure. All right, so that's the update on that. We're sitting currently tied with third with France. So I don't know, the French came up and caught up. But we're still pretty close to the Pirates. We actually did gain a few points on Spain, so they're not too far off. If you double points, they're about 15 games ahead of us. So we just need to buckle down and everybody play a few extra games, and we should be able to catch them no problem. We've been pretty consistent in the amount of games we played, the English faction. We just need to play just a tad more, and I think we'll be at the top at the very end. So that's pretty much what's going on there. I also do want to mention that Firelock Games, as of this episode running already, they already have this promotion going on. It started on July 4th, which is the U.S. Independence Day. So I just want to wish everybody down in the United States a happy and safe holiday. It would have kind of already passed already. But the promo is going till the 8th of July. So you still have some time. They're offering 20% off everything in the store. The only thing that they're not offering on is pre-ordered products. So anything that's not pre-ordered, you can get 20% off on. So this is a great time to get into Blood and Steel or Blood and Valor. They have bundle sets for Blood and Valor. Or maybe you want to do Oak and Iron, or get Scurvy Dice. That's a fantastic box game. I should really do a video on that. That's a really great little game. And then, of course, maybe fleshing out your Blood and Plunder collection, right? Or adding ships, or you want to get into the game for the very first time. This is the opportunity, another opportunity to get into the game and get good pricing on everything. All right, so that's pretty much it. If you guys like what we're doing here on the Plunder Den, make sure you smash that like button and consider subscribing to the Plunder Den to get first-hand information when I start these kind of projects. All right, everyone, let's get down to the table and let's do this unboxing and painting tutorial of Blood and Steel. Okay, I figured I'd start by looking through some of these miniatures. So, as I mentioned, these are from Perry Miniatures. You get 38 in a box, which is pretty crazy, actually, that you get that many miniatures in here. They are 28 mil scale, so they're the right scale. On the back here, it kind of has a brief description, history on them, and a little bit of a, kind of a paint guide, really. There's actually a better one inside, but we'll get to that in a minute. So these are the sprues that are in there. There's, I think, 2 stacks of 4 inside the box. And I'm really impressed, actually, with these miniatures. They have great details, especially those shields. They have a lot of, like, the hairs on it and stuff from the animal skin. They look fantastic. So I'm just going to show you kind of a little bit more inside. As you can see, they're just stacks of sprues in there. It looks like they got a few different types of units. They have some rifle units. They have warriors with more headgear, I think. But they have a lot of different variations of different heads and weapons. So you can really customize your miniatures here. And I'm pretty excited because this is the route that Firelock Games is going with Blood and Plunder. They're going to have, in the new Raise the Black expansion, it'll be these kind of sprues. And I don't mind them. It is an extra step to glue them together, but overall, I think you can get really good details, and you can really customize them the way you want to. I know when we were doing the old miniatures in Blood and Part of the metal ones, you only get the four there in the pack, and you can really just paint them differently. And you could change them if you wanted to, but they were metal miniatures, so these ones are plastic, so you're able to do quite a bit with them. So here's our British infantry. Um, Again, same as last, the other box there, just a little bit of a color scheme for the uniforms. And we'll just take a look closer. Looks like they have a casualty marker here on this one. So I'll have to check out that. Looks like they have somebody on the ground, like shooting their last breath there. You can see them on the box, the front of the box there in the corner. So as I mentioned before, they have two stacks of 4 sprues in here. And definitely got a lot of different units in here. Definitely, I'm not one for counting buttons, but there's so much variety in here. I don't think it's going to be an issue of customizing things. That's one of the reasons why I really like Blood and Plunder 2 is that, pirates didn't really have a set uniform. But I don't mind making these British look like they should for this conflict. Like I said, they give you a nice variety of different units you can make in this box set. So these are MDF's bases. If you open the box, it has a larger bases, so they're probably more for different war games where you fight with units. This is a skirmish style, so you do it by individual miniatures, so you'll need different kind of bases for them. So they're provided with this bundle. All right, so let's take a look at the manual here, the book. So I really like this book. It's laid out similar to all the other Firelock Games books. Real easy to follow along. It spends a lot of time on the gameplay and shows you how to play the game. There's a section on... It's kind of laid out like the original Blood and Plunder book, where you got the basics on which you need to play the game, kind of combat, section on terrain, and then it looks at, instead of factions, there's conflicts. The Spanish-American War, Civil War, and the Zulu-Anglo one that I've selected in this bundle. So like I said, the game basics gives you some basic concepts. Again, has nice, really cool diagrams. It shows you easily how to illustrate how things work in the game. And again, that's consistent with most instructions that Firelock Games has. This talks about the activation phases. So just really the overall general rules of the game. And that's pretty on. I just wanted to show you some of the pictures. Terrain, there's a a section after my own heart. I love the terrain. So most of the rules for the terrain are similar to the other games that Firelock Games has. There's different kind of weapons. Definitely, there's a larger section on that. A lot of different weapons in this. This covers a large area of time. A lot of advancements happened. There's traits of different units, different missions. I'm going to get to those mission cards here in a sec here. I believe they're on the next page here. Yeah, here they are. So these are the different type of missions. Now I'm thinking about making these, just going down to Staples and making these into cards. I think it'd be easier. I mean, they're in the book. You don't have to do that. But I think it would be easier to play the game if I had some cards. And you never know, they might release something like that. It might come out. But all the information you need is in the book. You don't really need to do that. That's just an extra step I'm going to take. And this kind of gives you a list of all the different units for each country and their abilities. And laid out, there's the Zulu warriors. And I believe the English is not too far off because they've separated by conflict, yeah. So when you're looking at the different forces, that's how they're separated in the book. So like I said, really easy to follow. So that's the Blood and Steel instruction manual. Fantastic book. Easy, like I said, easy to follow. Good instructions. All right, so I'm going to go back to the boxes, and I just kind of briefly mentioned it, but I wanted to pull these out. So inside the box, they kind of have brief instructions on how to build certain things. There's a history on things, and they have the color schemes on here to really help you paint these miniatures. So I'm definitely going to refer to some of this on here and when I'm building my miniatures. So these are the bases I was talking about. They come in the box, and I mentioned they're for unit battle when you play this game in other types of games. I mean, these miniatures were made before Blood and Steel, so they were meant for other games, but with those new bases, they can be used in this game. They're perfect miniatures for this game. So this is the English one as well. I just wanted to show you both of them. Before we get down to that painting tutorial, just kind of wanted to show you what everything looked like. These are kind of really handy. They got some good pictures of the flags that they would have had. So these are really cool. And it really will be helpful with the painting tutorial. I kind of didn't want to go with the standard one you see in the top corner there. I wanted to do some different style ones with the blue helmets and ones you don't normally see in the pictures of the Zulu conflict. They have most people do the one kind of miniature, so I want to do something a little different. All right, so let's get down to the table and start building these guys. So I'm just going to build 2 of each, just to show you how I did them. So that's a non-toxic modeling glue. It actually smells like lemons. It's pretty cool, and it dries really fast. So you'll need some sandpaper, some clippers, and I just clipped all the pieces off the sprues. I just clipped off everything that I needed for these particular guys. 2 English, 2 Zulu warriors, and I just glued them together. The shield arm took a little bit. I had to glue the arm to the shield first before I could glue it to the rest of the body after it dried, because it was just kind of heavy and it kept pulling on it, and I wasn't able to dry it straight. So that's the only one that was a little bit more time consuming. And then I glued them to the base. This is how I like to do them. Some people would paint them beforehand, and it's really up to you. I just have them all together and paint it. So then I add drywall compound to the bottom. This is just really to hide the small base, and it gives it kind of a rough look to the ground. It really finishes off your basing of your miniatures. So it is, again, this is time consuming. You have to let that dry for 24 hours. You might not have to let exactly that much, but I always do just to be sure. So then I use a brush-on primer. Again, you could use a rattle can if you want, any kind of primer choice you like. I like to use just the brush-on Army Painter. And in the base, I'm going to cover in that black craft paint, that satin multi-purpose black paint by Folkart. And that'll dry and harden and make the bottoms of these super sturdy. So now you got a really good sturdy base on there. And you can see how the ground is, that black paint squeezes down on that drywall compound. And you get just a nice looking ground base for your miniatures. Before I put any colors and flocking and anything else on it. So then I go to regular base colors, real brown, bark brown, and Pablo. I just plan on painting just the bases, so not the miniatures themselves. I've already primed them with gray because we're going to do some speed paints here in a minute. But I just wanted to show you that I'm going to do those bases first. Just with a little brush. Same way I do all my terrain. Do those colors in the same order. So we're going to do this in fast forward so we don't kill up a lot of time on this video. But I kind of wanted to show you these speed paints. So dark wood and hardened leather are the 2 that I picked. And these 2 are great. I was actually using them for some of my other native miniatures, and they came out really handy. So I did the body in the dark wood, and that's what I'm doing here in the extreme fast forward. And they go on, they look shiny when you put them on, and but these Army Painters speed paints, they dry really flat. And the great thing is they have a mixing ball in them already. So you don't even have to add a mixing ball to them. They already come with the they're in the paint themselves already. So it's fantastic. Just shake it up a little bit, slap them on, and they actually dry fairly fast too. I didn't have to wait 24 hours or anything like that. Didn't take too long to dry. And then for the shield, I decided to use that other color, the hardened leather. So we're just going to quickly do that one. You can see that one's a much lighter one. It's a really nice color, actually. But I think perfect for the animal skin shields on the Zulu warriors. We're just about done here. So I'm just going to show you 2 Blood and Plunder native warriors I did in those 2 colors. And you can see a different contrast. They actually come out really fantastic. So now we're going to move on to some of the other colors on the soldiers that I plan on using. The Pure Red, Dragon Red, and Barbarian Flesh for the skin. This is a blue. I wanted to make it a little darker, so I added a little bit of black. And the Desert Yellow I don't plan on using. I was going to use it on their hats, but I did use it on the Zulu warriors, on some of their garb. And then I got a couple of different colors of white that I plan on using for the British equipment. If you look at the pictures of them, most of their equipment is white. But I want to put an off-white so there's some shadowing. Of course, I'm going to put some contrast paint over top of it and then highlight it with white. And I also wanted to hit these stitches on these shields. And I do some of the feathers and some of the clothing on the Zulu warriors. And I'll just show you here, like around their legs and stuff. They have like hairs and stuff there. And this is, so I'm just showing you after I've completed putting those things on. Now I didn't hit with the white as of yet, the plain white, because I wanted to hit all these other colors yet first. So I'm just showing you I did use that Desert Yellow. I ended up putting on the Zulu warriors. And then I use this Agrax Earth Shader and the Skeleton Horde over all their equipment and stuff. But I am going to paint their guns first. So with the Greedy Gold, Gunmetal, and Oak Brown, I'm going to hit all those guns and the rest of their equipment. And then I'm going to add that Skeleton Horde over top. In some areas on the blue, I added that Earth Shader. So this is after I've added all that afterwards. You can see the contrast paint has really made a huge difference on these guys. And yeah, I contemplated just leaving them the way they were right now. But I decided that you want to highlight those things. So I went to that white. Lava Orange is for the wearing out of the guns. Red, Pure Red, I'm going to put over top of their uniform. And I touched a little bit of areas on their guns with the, go back with the gold and silver just to highlight a few areas. So I'm just going to show you after I've done. So now the paint job is completed on these guys. I'm really happy how they turned out. They look fantastic. Those speed paints, really helped me out, speed this process up. You can see I added a little bit of white to the shield, and this is after I've added all the highlights, so I've kind of brought out some of the details in these minis. And I do like that I added the white back in there. It's hard to see in this camera, but there's a lot of shadowing in that equipment. And it came out really well, putting those different layers on there. So I know I didn't show you all the brush strokes I did on here, a limited time on this video, but I just kind of wanted to show you some of the colors that I used to finish these guys off. And this is like 4 down. I got 36 more for each faction to paint. So we got some serious painting to do here to get all this done. All right, so then I'm gonna finally do the basing. So I just picked the steppe grass and the green grass and then assorted tufts, kind of just to try to African plain kind of ones that I would see there. And then just use that white tacky glue. I used a brush, brushed it on. I do it over a piece of newspaper, and there you go, you got it. All right, we'll take a look at the finished product here. These are after they've been completed and based, and these guys are ready for action. I hope to do some more terrain videos in the future here for Blood and Steel. Maybe some sandbag walls and some more terrain, a village, and some buildings for them to hide in. But overall, I'm super happy how these turned out, and I can't wait to paint the rest of them. All right, thanks so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you in the next one.